happens, so giving people some time. Welcome all of you to the October 2023 Course Development Workshop. This is creating a community of learners. This is a tiny bit slow, so forgive me. So to recap, in 2022, we went over some fundamentals of course development, covering topics like learning outcomes, backward design, scaffolding assessments, feedback, and evaluation metrics. In 2023, we've dug in a bit deeper with topics like accessibility, DEI, engagement, and critical thinking. And if you missed any of these sessions, please know that they are available on the UAGC YouTube channel. And Diana is going to drop that link in the chat for you now. Thank you so much, Diana. So our webinar agenda today is as follows. We are going to define a community of learners. We're going to share why it's important. Jen Zauer is going to share the faculty perspective on creating a community of learners. And we have two guest speakers, Dr. Raj Parikh and Dr. Jessi Upshaw, who will share their own experiences with a community of learners. And finally, we'll share some tips and tricks for facilitators. So let's take a moment now, if you would, and share some of your thoughts. How do you define a community of learners? You can go ahead and type your answer in the chat. Or if you'd rather, you can go ahead and just come off mute and you can tell us your definition, whichever you'd like.
People, I do not understand how we as Jews can stand by while a nation freedom. They are.
Oops, I think someone needs to mute themselves. Maybe do we have control over that, Diana? Okay. I'm going to pull the chat over here. So we've got some people saying a group that wants to learn a common topic, but they may have various learning styles. A collaboration, connection, engaging communication, collaborative learning from each other, effective communicators, a group that learns together through diverse perspectives, a place to connect and learn from one another, a collective of like-minded individuals. And I like these words that are coming up: engaging, connected, collaborating. This is exactly what we found in the literature as well. So now that you've had a chance to share some of your definitions, let's proceed and look at how learning communities are variously defined in the literature. They're called a space for understanding, sharing, and facilitating best practices, a space for collaborative learning, a learning atmosphere from which sustainable learning processes are gained through a dialogue and collaborative construction of knowledge, spaces for students to identify with others, communicate openly and candidly, and develop professional relationships. And so although these definitions vary slightly, you can see that they all refer to elements of sharing and collaboration, similar to what you shared as well. So some of the benefits of building a community of learners, this is what the research has shown us, that these are some of the benefits: an improved student sense of belonging, improved student engagement, improved student learning, a sense of feeling seen and valued, improved graduate outcomes, better communication between students and staff, increased efforts toward problem solving, and an increase in overall satisfaction for students. So next, we'd like to show a brief video with you. And I'll go ahead and get this started.
Being in communities online is something that many of us do in our daily lives, whether it is a group that connects local residents to community markets, a group that supports new parents on their journey into parenthood, or a group that connects craft food enthusiasts to their local providers. Online communities are places that we connect with others around something we have in common. In higher education, the concept of online communities for learning is increasingly being explored as more institutions move to offer online courses or programs. The field and practice of distance education has a rich and storied history of fostering connections with learners at a distance, whether it is through mail, phone, television, radio, and more recently, online delivery. However, for many, it is difficult to imagine being part of an online learning community in their formal post-secondary education experience. The fully online learning community model, or FOLC, is used to conceptualize, design, and research collaborative online learning in higher education. The aim of the model is to inform the design of digital learning environments and communities. In a world that continues to equate learning with memorization and testing, the FOLC model takes the position that deep and meaningful learning occurs at the intersection of two spheres that are immersed within a digital space. These two spheres are the social sphere, involving social presence, and the cognitive sphere, involving cognitive presence. Social presence is defined as the co-creation of a collegial environment that invites and supports learners in sharing their ideas freely and without fear. In this model, all members of the class, students, instructors, teaching assistants, are considered learners, each possessing varied and valid experiences, perceptions, and responsibilities. The result is a form of collaborative learning in which all parties work jointly towards solutions, and decisions are reached through social negotiation. This approach allows for differing and possibly conflicting views to be used in the development of new, complex, and previously unimagined solutions and understandings. Learners in FOLC-based environments are encouraged to adopt the position of a critical friend with their colleagues and actively seek out constructive feedback to improve the quality of their thinking. The FOLC-based learning communities that are created happen within digital spaces and places both in real time and asynchronously. In FOLC environments, problem identification, problem solving, critical thinking, creativity, and negotiation are among some of the skills and abilities required as learners interact with each other to solve real-world problems. In addition, the FOLC model's focus on inquiry-based activities, centralized control, and community orientation fosters the development of transformative and emancipatory learning as conceptualized by human rights education and social justice education. It does so by creating an environment that promotes a sense of intellectual and social safety, openness, and trust. This environment encourages the sharing of emotions as preparation for critical reflection and facilitates the exploration of divergent perspectives. Additionally, it promotes each community member's sense of autonomy, engagement, and collaboration through processes involving constructive feedback, self-assessment, and self-dialogue. Thanks for tuning in. If you liked this video, please share it with your friends, colleagues, and students.
Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Jen Zauer now.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Amy. And thanks for teeing up our conversation with setting the stage and the purpose, and research behind creating a community of learners. And that video, I've watched it several times, and every time I watch it, I have different takeaways from it. And some of the things I jotted down while I was watching it this time were about, community learners are about fostering connections, bridging that gap between social and cognitive presence and bringing those together so they can partner with each other to create those learning experiences, a collegial environment. And one that really stood out to me when I listened to it today was that idea of creating a place where you can have critical friends to help expand your thinking, right? That idea of dialoguing and engaging in diverse perspectives and diverse conversations. And I'm excited to get to kind of tee up our conversation for a breakout room we're having today before we really dig into Jessi and Raj, who are here today to share their faculty perspective, is about where are we with creating a community of learners in our courses. And as you may or may not be familiar with, when in our course developments that we're currently going through with our partners at Learning Mate, we set up 4 different areas of focus that we were looking to strive to bring to life in our courses. And one of those 4 areas is creating a community of learners. So we're definitely at the beginning of our journey in what this looks like and exploring the possibilities of how are we creating a community of learners? What types of learning experiences are we creating and providing to our students that do allow them to have that collegial environment where they can foster connections and challenge each other's thinking and bring in new viewpoints and diverse perspectives in ways that allow everyone to walk away with new ideas or to build on and expand upon the information and knowledge they already have. So we're trying new ideas, but we know we have a lot of room for growth. And this is where we want to spend some time today, engaging in some breakout rooms and having some conversation and dialogue around what are we doing with creating a community of learners in our courses? What types of things are we seeing, whether they're courses here or some of us have experiences at other institutions as well. What have you seen? What have you tried? What's working? What have you tried that didn't work? And have the chance to connect in some smaller groups around this topic and conversation, and then come back together to share so that we can hopefully walk away with a feeling, a little pulse on where do we think we are with creating a community of learners and where can we go from here. So with that, I'm going to have Diana do her magic thing and put everybody into some breakout rooms so that we can engage in a little bit of conversation as it relates to where we are with creating a community of learners in our courses. And I see they posted that question in the chat that we'll dialogue about for about 5 to 7 minutes or so in our breakout room. So Diana, I don't know if you're going to automatically assign and it's going to push everyone there. Oh, perfect. It looks like everybody was assigned to a room. So we'll see you back here shortly to have a conversation about what we all talked about.
No, your nails are often quite fancy, Amy, actually. My
Oh,
nails are
you know-
never fancy. My nails are clear nail polish only.
I had to cut them because I could no longer type.
Oh yeah. No, I get mine done, but I'm always like as short as humanly possible.
Yes.
Meanwhile, the people next to me are like as long as humanly possible. Like
Yes.
there's a like this long, and I'm like,
Yeah,
no,
that I
do
don't get.
your job. Because
Yeah, I don't get that.
I hear them like on my keyboard. I'm like, too long.
Yeah.
They're too long.
My animals love it when I scratch them, like the horses just like lean up and are like, oh, it's mama. Like she's going to scratch us. It's going to feel so good.
Yeah. No, I had to go because I got my cast off on last week. So I'm like, I need my nails. Like, 'cause these 3 were
Yeah.
hidden from
From
Oh,
life.
Oh,
it's like
That was a
anytime
long
I
time.
veer from my usual colors, something happens. So that's my lesson.
Oh, well, it's clearly nail polish related.
Because I veered from like either black or my 602. Those are my 2 colors. And the 2 times I veered, I've ended up in a cast.
This could be a little pink. I could go a little pink. We'll do something like
there
that.
you go.
We're Tony.
I just hope that Tony is not with his contractor and he's like, so this
What
is
are they
what-
doing? Right.
She's like, oh my gosh, you guys, guess what happens when
Yeah.
Definitely.
I'm going to stay out of this conversation.
Yeah.
So-
Tony's like, I'm out.
Happy, Tony.
Talk about during the break. Awesome.
So I do want to share because I'm sure you guys are getting these text message alerts from campus. Are you guys getting it? Okay. So I would like to share that I was on campus a month ago
Mhm.
and It was on a Wednesday, and I was walking along, and all of a sudden, police SWAT teams came out of nowhere. And I was like, oh my gosh. And it was so freaky because I was walking back from our meetings to the hotel I was staying at. And they're like, everybody down, get away. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And
What
I got
happened?
back to my room. And so what had happened was this guy or whoever went to this building, and this kid, this student, had his e-bike, and someone came up to him, and it was an armed robbery. And stole the
That's
e-bike.
terrible.
So then last week, did you guys see the email where they're like, they got the perpetrator? So I don't know if you saw the email that was sent. It was just sent like
Someone
early this
today.
week, where they're like, yeah, we caught the guy.
That's
That was
great.
the thing, right? When I was like, oh my gosh, what's happening? It was so scary.
Oh,
No, because I texted Jen Zauer, Tony, and was like, I was just like part of this thing. I don't even know what happened. It happened so fast.
mm.
It's really scary.
Very
In
freaky.
Iowa?
Tucson.
Oh,
Tony, pay attention.
No,
I'm just kidding.
We don't have these newfangled things like e-bikes here in Iowa.
no, not
Okay.
e-bikes.
All right,
No.
people, they're coming back.
All right.
What else shape up?
Amy, did you unpause this? Are we recording again?
I did not stop us from recording.
Well, you're set to go. 30 seconds and everyone will be back whether they want to be or not.
I was just about to say, Steph Tweedy, did someone do something to you in your breakout session? You looked frightened when you came back. You were like, you can tell us. Message me
Raining
privately.
cold here. It's raining cold.
Aw.
So I got a sweater, but yeah, no, that's just me. I just made weird faces all the time.
Oh, you and Amy should just get coffee together and talk about your need for fleece and weird faces.
Right?
I'm on mute talking to myself, asking Diana how many breakout rooms there were.
There were 4 breakout rooms.
Perfect. Okay, thanks.
Amy, can you go? Actually, Amy, you can stop sharing so that everybody can see each other if you want. There you go.
Oh, perfect. Perfect.
All right.
It looks like we're all back together. So I know I was in breakout room too, and we can share a little bit towards the end. We had some great ideas and suggestions shared about how people are working to build communities of learners, but I'd love to hear from some of the other rooms. Is there anybody from room 1 who wants to share any of the ideas they talked about?
I can share for our group in group 1. I took notes, so we do have
Perfect.
some things. Yes. One was from a different university. It was a little bit different because they were more all in the same time zone. So we have some extra challenges there, but they did have like a live session that was like a group chat. That way students could all ask questions and have that synchronous component to it. So kind of similar to live learning, but also a little different. Another one was just talking about starting off with creating that environment where students are comfortable, even setting office hours, whether it's the same time each week in that case. And I know I've heard it called different things at different universities too, where it's not just office hours, but just kind of like a drop-in or a check-in. That way they know that it's just also building rapport. It might not just be going over your work and going over any questions. One that I thought was essential too is having the 2 caps. You're there as a professional, but also creating that personal relationship. And then also something that came up at the very end there was also providing that clarity and instructions when you're designing courses, because that can also help learners throughout the course too.
Awesome.
I like Holly's afternoon tea.
Afternoon tea. Oh, I love that. I love that, right? Bring a snack and come and chat. Sounds like a great place to build some community for sure. There's some great ideas there, Caitlin. Thanks so much for sharing from room 1. How about room 3?
I have to admit, I don't know which room we were in.
Okay, that's okay. Go ahead and share, Heather.
So I was with a good group. It's funny, this is a good question. I just wrote a book chapter on this, building community in the online classroom, actually. And I just was talking about a few of the things I did, and William Woods mentioned a couple of things that he did. I like to, this is at the doctoral level, where we don't have all of these wonderful introduction to the program and all of these things that we do at the undergrad level. I like to just host my own Zoom and send out a meeting invite, make it optional, of course, but invite everyone and really try to sell it, let them know that there's no expectations here. It's really just to get to know each other and, come as you are, kind of. And then I try to do that. So in the 9-week courses, I try to do that about every 3rd week. And what I found is the students who come in the 1st week will come in the 3rd, 6th, and 9th. But if they don't come in the 1st week, they're probably never going to come at all. And that's okay, because not all students are comfortable doing that. And we don't want to force them to do those things if they don't want to. Another really effective thing that William and I both said is that the sharing of photos in our classroom can go a really long way. So I always share a picture of my own family, and then I always write in my intro that I have 3 teenagers and I have freshman twins and a senior daughter, and just give them this information. And almost always they respond to that with, oh, well, I have a senior. Where's your daughter going to college? And they just really, there's a much deeper level of engagement. And William said that he asks people if they're comfortable sharing photos of their newborns. So he's had like 4 people, and I just had a student who had a baby yesterday, interestingly enough, if they want to share. And then, all of the students, of course, are going to comment on that picture. And that really goes a long way of building community and getting students to interact on a level that isn't posting on a content discussion board. And I had a student who posted a picture of her daughter's wedding. She asked me if she could, and it was like a 3-week-long discussion just about the wedding. So it was really a super simple, free, easy way to build community.
Thank you so much for coming on and sharing, Heather. I love that.
Yeah.
And the stronger the community is personally, then you start to see those conversations, go into some of those content area forums where they've built that foundation. They're feeling safe with each other. They're feeling comfortable with each other. And then they're more willing to engage in conversation around some of those content related topics too. So thank you so much for sharing those ideas, whether it was room 3 or 4, they were great. They were great ideas that came. And then is there anybody who wasn't in Heather's room or Caitlin's room or in room 2 with me who wants to share? I don't know if we're missing room 3 or 4, but if there's anyone else who wants to jump on and share some ideas.
Jen, I put something in the chat just very briefly. Love everything I'm hearing, and I see it. Sometimes I don't have a lot of students when I do the open office hours and try with a Zoom. You get 4, you get 2, sometimes maybe 6. But as Tisha said, you still got 6 that you didn't have before. You still have 2, so you can still build rapport and trust and relationships. But what I thought was very interesting was Holly suggested, and Holly, I don't want to steal your thunder, but I thought it was just a great idea that you frame your invite to come on in and help your peers work together. Let's see, and I just thought that was pretty cool. And that's what I'm going to do, help each other learn the content, help each other transfer the content, the education. So I thought that was brilliant. I don't know if you want to tell the group that or not, but that's a shout out for you.
You might have put your own spin on it, Bill. So what I said was that I invite students using a Calendly invite when I do individual student meetings, and I've gotten good participation by giving a wide range of times, more times than I think people will need, including a couple of evening times. But interestingly, many people do it during the day. I think what Bill is referring to is what I was saying I do for students sharing a resource or a source in the class. In math, that's a really hard sell. And so instead of saying, you need to support your argument, I say, well, could you share a link or could you share a specific page or example that would help one of your classmates, because there's so much information to go by. This will make us more of a learning community, and all my verbiage is around the words of learning community. And what I find is that then students who do it, not everyone does, but some do, then other students will say, oh, I went to that site and it helped me so much. And if a student says at the bottom, they put their whole reading assignment as their source, I write, well, citing an entire chapter is a little vague. Could you be more specific? And sometimes students will come back. Also, I think students think that a link to the text, which is not a Constellation text in my class, by the way, or a link to the learning lab, which is called Alex, they think that we can follow that, and we can't. So they have to say chapter 7.3, example 4, if they want us to know where specifically they would look. And many students want the bottom put 2 or 3 examples that they looked at, and that really seems to do it. But I think the impetus for students participating is that I frame it as help your classmates, because although I bug them about it, I don't take off any points if they don't do it all session. So the community is something students will be motivated by.
Yeah, that's great, Holly. I love it. I love sometimes it's as simple as changing the way in which you're framing the conversation, right? So even thinking about that lens of helping your peers, maybe there's a way to integrate that into some of the peer responses that we have, where students realize that, hey, when I'm responding to my peer or my classmate, I can help them while also maybe helping myself and others learn. So might be a strategy to explore bringing in. We talked in room 2. I can share for our group unless Ron or Kara or Chris wants to jump on. We talked a lot about, the importance of creating that space for our students to feel safe with each other. And Kara shared a great idea that she uses in her course. She teaches a couple of courses that she said has some content that could maybe be a little bit controversial. And what she has the students do in the introduction forum in there is actually have them create 2 to 3 rules that they want to kind of see followed in the class to help them to feel safe and comfortable in that environment while engaging in dialogue around some sensitive topics. So I thought that was a really interesting way to build a safe space and for everyone to kind of understand, what their peers need to engage in those conversations and dialogue. And the other thing that Ron talked about was giving them the chance to really take that content and connect it back to their own real life, whether it's, something in their current profession, or Ron shared in some of his business courses. He talked about how, every parent out there has project management skills to be a parent. So if they're talking about project management, but maybe they're not in the field yet, finding a way to help connect it back to their own personal life so that they feel more comfortable with that content. So lots of really great ideas. I jotted down ideas from every group that shared, and I'm so appreciative and looking forward to us all collectively continuing the conversation about how we're creating a community of learners in our classrooms. But for now, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Jessi Upshaw, who's going to share a little bit about some of the strategies she's tried in her courses to create a community of learners. So with that, Jessi, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Jen. Can everybody see my screen? Awesome. Thank you. I'm just going to share about one way that we have done this in the program. I'm the program chair for the Master of Arts in Special Education in the Department of Education and Liberal Arts. If you haven't seen my face or my name before, I'll do a little plug for Ed Talks. If you've ever come to an Ed Talk, you may have seen me there. But in day to day, I am with the Master of Arts in Special Education program. So keep in mind that as I'm speaking here, I am looking from a graduate lens, but what I'm talking about, we can also scaffold to an associate level, undergraduate level, and up to a doctoral level as well. We do know that there are many concrete ways to create community in the class, community of learners. And I love all of the things that were said here, looking at things like intentional connection, looking at creating safe and inclusive classroom environments, creating a classroom culture, looking at how you do that through your instruction, going first as a role model as an instructor. But today, my examples are going to be on the curriculum development side. And I'm going to talk a little bit about one way we have brought a practice of creating a community of learners into many of the courses in my program through that curriculum development, and that is collaborative group work. And I'm waiting for the groans. Go ahead, everybody groan. Oh, sorry, my alarm is going off that my children are getting out of school. Apologize for that. The collaborative grown. In fact, it even happened a little bit in our small group, and it may have happened in your group too. And I will tell you, the very first course that I had group work in, it was a collaborative grown from the students. So as I have the opportunity to go through and revise courses, we've tried to take away the grown and find ways to make it more accessible across the time zones, across the miles, across our different types of students. And the way that we do this in our program actually has a multiple step. So there's lots of different ways to do this. And I think Raj is going to talk about a few others here in a minute as well. But one example is a multi-step, multi-week approach to group work. And we've really been able to get some feedback from students and faculty. In fact, one of my faculty members was in my group, and she was giving some feedback to the other group members. This model seems to be getting a good response from our students as well. And obviously we have room to grow and room to improve always, but it does allow some predictability of how the projects will go as they progress through their degree. So we try and keep the same model at this point as we revise each course, so that they can predict what group work will look like if they encounter it in another course. Our group work does have 3 parts, and right now it's across 2 or 3 weeks. It depends on the course. It does involve the first week of a group agreement. And that takes place in a journal activity. And one thing I want to really emphasize is, as we are looking at a group agreement and letting people know, the biggest piece I'm going to talk about at the end here is how do we set this up, because it involves communicate. They don't find out in the group that they have the journal that there's group work in the course. We start in week 1 discussing that there's group work in the course. We start preparing faculty who are teaching the course that there's group work in the course and setting it up, but allowing the students to take a whole week to plan their group project and connect and practice communicating and deciding what their group work is going to look like for their group. We found some success using this group work. It's a template. It sets up why we do the group work. It provides a place for group members to plan out what it's going to look like. There's also a space for course developers to put the specific prompts for that group activity, so that they're planning specifically who will be working on what and who will be in charge, but they have the control over this piece. There's a place for all members to indicate their agreement to the plan, share their contact information. And then there's also a place for resources for future collaborative activities, and that they might use for conflict resolution, for communication, for collaborating across distance. So the group agreement serves multiple purposes. It brings them together, allows them a practice opportunity to collaborate, and an opportunity to gain additional resources. And this is then turned in, the same copy for each group member is turned in a journal that week, where they also reflect on the process of group work, how it's gone in the past, what they wish would have gone better in the past, and what they're going to do in this opportunity to make that opportunity more successful. In some of our courses, we also have a learning activity or a quiz early in the course that is just an acknowledgement that they understand there is group work. And I just heard in my last group that has a lot of impact for all students, realizing that group work is coming when there is a learning activity tied to the acknowledgement of the group work. But I will say that that's not in all of our courses yet, but this journal and the planning week with a group agreement is in all of the courses that have the group work component in place. And it either happens the week prior or a couple of weeks prior to the actual group activity itself, allowing everyone to get a chance to connect with their groups. And then the second part of our group activities is the content itself. But one thing is, we don't necessarily focus as much on the content that they're sharing as on the collaboration itself, especially in my program, as collaboration is one of our program learning outcomes. outcomes. So the process of collaboration is often the most important part. We are really looking at authentic assessments when we're doing group work, and looking at that collaborative approach, understanding that tell every student this is not going to be the last time you have to work in a group, and it's even not going to be the last time you have to work in a group across the country with people who may have different schedules and different priorities than you, and challenges and conflicts will occur, but great things will come of it. We've currently incorporated collaborative opportunities in 7 of the 10 courses in our program, and we are looking at ways to expand how we'll do that. In some courses, it's making a team decision based on an assessment, actually in practice, as we do in special education. In some, it's defining group values, purpose, mission, strategy, and practicing doing that as a group. So I do find that if you are doing group work, finding an activity that relates to the course learning outcomes that does have that authentic group component to it is a really helpful way to do it. In one of our courses, we also have a slightly different format where we have a peer review agreement, and then there's peer review happening with guided response and an activity. So it's a little less of the content and more on the response to discussions. And I see that there's things popping up in the chat. I will answer questions at the end, so I'm not ignoring you if there's questions there. The third component of our group work does involve a learning check-in. It actually takes the format of a quiz in Canvas, but it is more of a reflective practice, and there is a grade assigned to it. And it's an opportunity. It serves multiple purposes. It's an opportunity for students to acknowledge the work that they've done in the collaborative process and reflect, to acknowledge and reflect on the collaborative process their group members have done. And it also provides an open-ended opportunity to provide any feedback they want to share about the experience. This also provides support for the instructor to understand what really did, some of the pieces that may have happened outside of what showed up in the activity and the final product, help them understand the collaborative process as well. It can help with feedback, it can help with teachable moments, it can help with group project grading, and really understand those dynamics of what's going on with the collaborative process. And it also serves that purpose for students for the reflection. Let's see, and that's really tiny there, but the open-ended question reads, please indicate any additional information your instructor needs to know related to your agreement that all group members contributed, and should therefore earn the group grade. If you have no additional information to share, please indicate NA for not applicable. So that is the setup, but the other important part is supporting the faculty and the students around the group work. So beyond the curriculum, to support collaborative group work, that key component is faculty collaboration and supporting those teaching the course. When group work is included in a course, the course designer, in the examples that I've shown, creates instructor notes to support faculty on ways to support students and how to set up group learning opportunities, examples of announcements they can use, instructions on how to set up groups in Canvas. They are provided best practices on reminding students in week 1 that the course does have group work coming, and some also have a built-in announcement in group 1 or in week 1 that group work is in that course. And we do provide samples for faculty on how to utilize that learning activity and bring that grading in. And I always remind faculty and students that the main goal and outcome of these activities is effective collaboration. So in line with the culture of care, we do promote an approach that puts the process of group work and collaboration over deadlines. And if groups end up needing more time, faculty work with them. And additional guidance is also given to faculty teams on how to use the data and information that they get in that learning activity, so that they understand how they might be able to incorporate that in if they are seeking guidance for how to incorporate that in the grading. So with that, I'm going to open up my chat box to see if I missed any questions, or Jen, if you saw any that as it was going that I can address.
There were a couple of questions asking which particular course you were sharing, Jessi. I think there's some desire for people to go in and poke around and kind of see, all of the setup in there. So there was that question in there from Susan. And then Bill asked a question about if Learning Mate assisted with this, or if this was 100% something that you and your team did. So I'll pause there.
Okay, as far as the courses, when the next guest speaker is going, I will pop those in the chat, a list of courses. That way you have them in writing as well, and you don't have to remember them, Susan. Bill, so the group work was already in place in a different format in our capstone courses, and because of collaboration being a key learning outcome of our program, we did want to bring it into more courses. And I had some assistance with some of the instructional designers prior to and during our time with Learning Mate to assist in accessibility of the documents that we created and branding, and then spreading out the group work was something out of experience, having done it in different ways. I took feedback from my associate faculty team and from my own experiences and from students of what would make it easier to actually be engaging in a collaborative process. And one thing I didn't mention, but I do want to emphasize, is I also encourage students, collaboration doesn't have to be everybody meets at the same time in a Zoom meeting and discusses it. You can have asynchronous collaboration. I think one of the definitions they showed earlier was building a collaborative, constructive knowledge. Like you can add to it, add to a group document. That's still collaboration, which allows timeline differentiation. So all that feedback I got from students was built into creating the model we're using, Bill. And let's see, Egypt asked, how many weeks are the courses that contain collaborative work? So graduate work, I see it was answered, are 6 weeks, but there are some undergraduate courses that have it incorporated for 5 weeks. And in that case, you'd probably want to look at spreading it out. So there's maybe a week in between from my experience, so that they're planning early in the course and maybe have the group work in week 4. I've done group work in week 5 or 6 in a graduate course, and I find it's better to do it in the week before the last week rather than trying to have that and their final project, unless it is a collaborative project. And with that, I've gone a little long. I'll answer any additional questions that are in the chat in text so that I can pass it on to my esteemed colleague, Raj.
We're ready, Raj, whenever you're ready to take it away. There you go. So you came off mute. Perfect.
I was just waiting for Jessi to stop her sharing so I can pick it up. 1 second, guys. All right, can you guys see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, so today we are focused on bringing in more group work, which is collaborative work in our classroom. So on that topic, I'd like to go over this 4 different areas. The format is a little bit different than what Jessi had covered. So first one is the perception of group work. What does our students think generally when it comes to the group work? Then I want to spend a little more time about the importance of a group project and kind of relate that back to the real world. The case study that I picked is from the TMG 300 course. This is a Scrum basic course, and I'll give you a quick background of this course. This is a course within IT and project management space where students are going to learn about the alternative framework for doing project management. And then the best practice is something that I even picked up doing a research for even this presentation, and some of the strategies that is in my back pocket, which I'm just teaching to incorporate the next opportunity I get. So the first one is the perception of online work, right? So when you these are all obvious to you guys. So again, just want to kind of go over this. So when the students talk about an online project, group work, collaborative work, they usually have their defenses up. They don't want to deal with this. They think that I don't want to be slowed down. I want to work at my pace. I want to work at my time, and I don't want anybody else to dictate that. The second objection you always hear is that I do not want to be penalized for someone else, right? So I'm an A plus student, A student, and I don't want to be penalized for somebody who may not be able to keep up their end of the bargain, and then now the whole group ends up getting a lower grade. So I think that's one of the resistance that you also see that from the students. And then again, if it's a large group, maybe 4, 5, 6 individuals, and then again they're spread out different time zones and they have different work schedules. Again, collaboration becomes very difficult. The logistical challenges are just not able to manage that. So again, there are other issues out there, but again, we can focus on these 3 for right now. And again, if you were to put on a student's hat, I think you would also agree that these are valid students. Again, none of us want to be penalized for somebody else's a lack of work, if you will. So why include group work? And this is, again, very common. Group projects are a way of life. We all have seen this one here. In real life, group work is everything. If you look at companies like Apple, Google's of the world, and the products that they deliver, it's not going to be possible at all unless they have the power of the diverse team that's located, throughout the world. So it's truly a trade teamwork that you see all the products that are coming out, especially in the tech world. So that's one part of it. The job requirements, I think this more and more, there's a focus on that as well here. Soft skill has become one of the top requirements for many high-paying jobs here. Companies are setting up, more specifically, an interview session for a candidate just to go over to see if they actually are fit for the values and the culture of the company. So this is there's a new trend that's popping up in the corporate world as well, and which is very interesting. I think the underlying theme is that executives think that they can send an employee for a 2-week training to learn a software application, but they cannot send an employee to a 2-week training on how to become a team player, right? So I think that's one trend that you're seeing here. Group work also can indirectly help students with other skills like communication skills, time management skills, problem solving skills, collaboration skills, and so on and so forth. If you look at the research, LinkedIn had done a recent research, and their survey validated 5 skills that most employers are looking for that can be created when you work on the group assignments, and those are things like creativity, persuasion, collaboration, adaptability, emotional intelligence. So I think this is this is a big plus. I think we all knew this. This is all in front of us, but I mean, having the data to back this up is always great to hear. Now, I want to talk more about the TMG 300. So again, the course, and these are some of the things that I picked up. Again, they are not in any specific order. So what we had done here was a faculty assigned a group team member. So I think one of the first things that students struggle is sort of trying to find a team member, right? They send an email and they didn't show a response back, and they're going back and forth. So if you just go ahead and create the team up front, students just feel that this is it. They got to work with the team member that's assigned. Again, this is no different than the situation in the workplace, right? You are just paired with a coworker and you just work with them. Now, again, some of you may think that this is not the way to do this. Let them, give them a time. So, again, this is just one of the approach, but this is what has worked for us, especially when you have 5 weeks to run the course. We have created different team threads. So the team threads are there for each of the team members for them to collaborate, to communicate. Again, that async collaboration is in place. Even though the instructor is not required to be in it, the fact that instructor is already in the class makes it easy for students, and they actually know that the instructor is watching, so they tend to communicate, sometimes over communicate, which is great, which we want that. So that's one aspect of that. The assignment, the course is designed in such a way that everyone is required to upload their submission, right? So if it's an exact same project plan, for example, and there are 4 people in the team, each one of those individuals are required to go ahead and upload their work. Now, the reason for that is really want to make sure that that they all feel that they all take some kind of initiative to make sure that their work is uploaded. And again, if somebody is not going to upload, they're really going to get the reduced grade, right? So again, we put an onus back on individual team member. And the last thing we've done was the peer evaluation. And what that is, again, is that at the end of the course, the team members gets to evaluate one another. And I think this is great because they all know that they better do their portion of the work, because otherwise they somehow will be reported. As an instructor, if you keep your eyes open, if you read 2 or 3 different evaluations, you pretty quickly figure it out, like if there's an issue, where the issue comes from, right? So these are some of the things that we have done within the TMG 300 course, right? All right, and then the last thing I want to just kind of bring it up here. Oops, what happened? Some of the best practices. Now, again, as I mentioned, this is something that I picked up, and we are trying to figure out the next opportunity we get. Like Jessi mentioned, communicate early and communicate often. This is something new. The default reaction of a typical student is, no, I don't want to do it, right? So upfront, if you can communicate this upfront, why this is important, is going to make it much easier for students to get on board. Forcing students to work together can also introduce students to new perspectives at times, and also lead to a healthy collaboration, right? Again, as I mentioned, similar to a workplace situation. promote the idea of sharing email addresses, phone numbers, weekly schedules, right? So we can do that within, inside the course. I think that's a great way to do it. There are many tools and apps that are out there that you can actually encourage your students to use as part of the collaboration, whatever they're comfortable in. And sometimes you realize that maybe somebody's using a smart sheet as one of the tools that we use for project management. Students tell me that this is actually interesting, but I learned something new that was not part of the course itself, which is the user interface, which I remember using it in my previous job. So I think those are the feedbacks that always is very encouraging as well. You can also host periodically a call. So what you can do is you can have 3 or 4 different teams. You can assign or have the team pick a project manager per se, because it's a project management course, and have those individuals check in with you. So what you are doing is you're just having like a stakeholder call. So you are the pretend stakeholder, and then you're just getting a feedback. How are things going? And then have each team member representative tell you the progress and issues they're running into. And you're just there to to listen to them. And then sometimes you get students complain saying this is not working, I'm not getting the feedback. And then you simply pause and ask questions saying, if this was a work-related situation, how would you manage it? Right? This is a when you pose that question, they all certainly stop complaining. Because like, yeah, this happens in real life. What do you do in this case? So I think it's trying to turn that objection around to them into a work situation has worked really well. And I think that's the hands-off approach here. So yeah, I think this is some of the things that has worked for us, and I'll kind of leave it open here for you guys. So it was a quick and short presentation, but again, you guys are welcome to take a look at the course TMG 300. Again, no means that we have figured out everything. There are some issues in there. We have many tweaks to make and many adjustments, but this was a good start, and then we thought that we can build on top of that. All right, back to you guys. Any questions?
Well, thank you so much, both of you, for your wisdom and insights here. And are there any other questions before we move forward?
The only question I have, and I'm intrigued with that, Raj, very nice, is when you are to grade these students, is that something you just do? Is it a rubric built in the course? I'm just curious.
Yeah, no change there, Bill. Good question. Same rubric. There is a 1 line item in a final presentation where instructor is supposed to look at the peer evaluation, and then it's instructor's discretion to assign a couple of percentage, but it's a small number. At least
thank you very much.
Wonderful. Okay, we'll move forward now, and Diana will share some insights for us, some tips and tricks.
Yes, I'm going to try to be super quick because we only have just a couple minutes. If you can click on the slide again to make it, there you go. Okay, so just some tips and tricks for facilitators. As we know that building collaborative work into the curriculum is just one method of building a sense of community with your learners. So if you are teaching a course that does not have anything that's collaborative built in, there are still things you can do. You can start off by creating a plan for communication. Before your course even starts, be thinking about how and when you're going to reach out to students. Obviously, when they go missing in the classroom, that's going to maybe trigger some communication. But what else can you do? Can you post an announcement with some mindfulness suggestions to remind students to practice self-care? Can you message students privately to do like a temperature check and see how they're doing? We even have a task calendar that I'm going to drop into the chat for you to help track some of these activities that you might want to build in. The next thing you can do is establish your social presence. Can you record a welcome video? Perhaps encourage your students to do the same thing. Can you be an active participant in your classroom, which you can also build into your communication plan so that students will also want to engage. We've already heard some good examples from your breakout sessions of sharing pictures of kids and pets and weddings and the things that are happening, because you're going to get just engagement off of that. And if they start talking about those things that interest them like that, then that can bridge them talking about content. But just remember that you are modeling the behavior you want to see from students.
So then also creating opportunities for sharing information and expertise. Those announcements and discussion responses is one way, but maybe create an announcement where you provide more information on a topic that's important to the course, but then ask students to share their experience with that, perhaps in their jobs that they already have, their workplace, their home life. Have them share external resources, news articles that are talking about it. Maybe they just saw somebody in the news talking about what you're studying. Have them share it in the classroom. And finally, this also came up, meeting in real time. You know, be open to meeting over Zoom and talking with your students. If it's, you know, just even if it's just getting to know them, like Heather suggested, that was a great suggestion, just to get to know each other so that they're more comfortable with their peers. But that's all I have for you. I'm going to drop this task calendar in that you can share with other people to kind of do your communication plan. And back to you, Amy.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Diana. And thank you all for coming. The last course development workshop is going to be December 13th. We've also included here the YouTube playlist, and Diana will also put that in the chat one more time. We've got all of our emails here for the course development group, as well as our wonderful guest speakers. Thank you again for coming, and thank you for sharing your ideas with us. And we look forward to seeing you for demonstrating workplace or real world relevance in December. Have a great day.
Thank you so much.